Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the first episode of Pincade. And just to give you a little bit of a background of myself, I'm a competitive pinball player. I actually bought a virtual pinball machine so I can practice as many tables as I can for competition purposes. Um, and I also work as a network engineer, as a regular full-time job. So I took very quickly and easily to getting visual pinball working and some of the tricks that I do and to make it play as realistic as possible. So I wanted to kind of start this first video for everyone to kind of set their table up. I am working and recording actually on a visual pinball machine, so everything I do is going to be for a cabinet, just because I'm more familiar with building for a cabinet. But building for a desktop is actually a little bit less complicated as far as some of the files that you might need or might not need. So the first thing I want to talk about is some of the places to get your files and where to kind of, because I know when I first started I wanted to play Funhouse really bad, and it was a really hard machine to really kind of find at the time because it was kind of like when pinball was like really dead. And I'm in the tri-state New York, New Jersey area. And I mean, you can find a pinball machine anywhere. Now it's a different story. I found about two or three fun houses within a certain driving distance. Um, but for like I said, I knew how to work MAME. I don't know if anybody's familiar with MAME, but I found Funhouse ROMs and I could hear the ROM playing. But I was like, how the hell do I get the pinball machine to work? Because I was like, it's obviously a video game. It's not a real pinball machine. So how do I get it to work? And it took me like literally years until I stumbled upon this whole like revolution of digital pinball, and that was kind of like because of the pinball arcade, and it kind of like got me looking for other emulators, and I ended up stumbling upon Visual Pinball. So, real quick, let's get familiar with some of the sites. One of the best sites is VP Forums. This is like the Bible, the mega site of visual pinball for myself, and I think most people would probably agree. This database is just massive as to what they have. This is like pretty much a one-stop shop for most people. All right. This is where you're gonna have to make an account on here. I don't know if it's still the same way, but when I first made my account, it was like you could only download like 5 or 10 things in a day as a free member. I ended up paying like the $10 or whatever it was at the time for like a year subscription. Um, I haven't been prompted for another one. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know if maybe I came up as a registered purchaser of a virtual pin or something, but it hasn't asked me for anything. But if it asked me, I would gladly give the $10, right, or the $20 or whatever it is, because I utilize this site like every other day to get something, right? So definitely make an account on this before you even start going any further in this video, because you're going to need at least 5 files just to start. And you're probably better off just unlocking the account if it prompts to make an account. Now, anyway, the next place is VP Universe. VP Universe is also a really good site. They may not have as much, but they have. I'm not going to get into the whole politics of this. They have newer Stern machines that, from a community standpoint, maybe shouldn't be advertised or whatnot, or being done. I'm not going to get into that stuff in this video. I might get into it in like a non-tutorial type video where it's just an opinion based type thing. But this place is awesome because they have usually like the cutting edge games. Um, that have been out for not that long, like 5, 6 years or something like that. So if you're looking for like Stern Spider-Man or Stern Avengers and stuff, these are the guys that are gonna have it, the VP Universe guys. And just so you understand, that is a hack to get those SAM current Stern tables working. That will be a video within itself because I'd rather you get your virtual pin working first before we start dumping in cracked hack files or whatever of the MAME engine and stuff like that to get those tables to actually play. So let's go back to, we're going to close VP Universe because like I said, it was just an introduction to kind of get you acclimated with what sites you want to start looking at, making accounts on, etc., etc. But now that hopefully at this point you've made your account on VP Forums, you're going to want to go to this Get Started section, okay? And right here, this first link is Installation Guide. This is a very intimidating file to people when they first read it because it's got a lot of like technical jargon in certain spots. Like I don't want to say technical jargon, but like visual pinball related type terminologies that people were like, I have no idea what the hell this is talking about. It's also formatted in a very, you know, very compiled thing, which is kind of intimidating at first reading it. I know myself being an IT person, when I read this, I was like, Jesus, what is this giant list of shit that was just like crammed all together, you know? And I kind of like read through it, and I realized that I was skimming through it, and then finally came down to this section right here about uh sorry, it wasn't that section, so I can't ever find it. It's somewhere in these sections, probably right around here, which is under VP installer versus VIP. Visual install pack. I don't know what that really means. I just took an installer, right? And I'm just saying to use this as a guideline. We're gonna kind of go over this stuff. I can't really set up this stuff from scratch, only because I started trying to do it and realized that it wanted to write over a lot of registry things that I had and files and basically uninstall my installation. So, and I didn't really feel like setting up a virtual machine at like 10 o'clock at night on a weekday just to get through this video. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to go into this getting started section. You know, if you want, you can follow this guide. If not, you can try and follow this tutorial. And you're going to get the full install file. All right, now I've already downloaded this file, which is right here. Now, one thing to note is you're not going to, I don't really use Visual Pinball 8, right? I stick with the Visual Pinball 9 stuff. So if we go into full install, this is saying that 991 is the most current one, right, for this version. If you click download and then you agree to this stuff, you'll see all the other previous versions. I personally have, if you look over here to my left over here, I have, this is 921. This is 991. This is FizzMod. I'm not going to get into that. And this is Visual Pinball Text with 10, which is a beta test. So these three are functioning. This last one, FizzMod, we'll get into that in like the VP Universe video for Sam. This is more like a hack of or a pre-release of the physics for the new Visual Pinball 10, which is in a beta testing, like I said. The reason why I have 921 and 991 is because 991 is yes the current latest one that's been like stamped as a, you know, kind of like bug free, you know, but 921 some tables play better there. Some tables don't take advantage of features in 991, or they're using features that 991 doesn't support. So sometimes it's hard to tell which table is like that. Um, but you'll notice when you're playing a table, sometimes something weird will happen, or the table will stop functioning. And then what I'll do is I'll usually roll that table back into 921, and then I'll see if it's working. Sorry, my dachshund is squeaking her toy behind me, so just ignore the noise. So you're gonna want to take 921. I know I took 991, but it was kind of out of a habit. But you could take either one, to be honest with you, because we're gonna do an update as well. So when you open this up, you're gonna see. Well, first let's extract it, right? You're gonna see your standard, Windows setup exe, and you're gonna run this and see. I'm getting the repair or remove. I don't want to really do that. Um, so you're gonna run this, and it's gonna install as any other Windows application that you would normally install. Your should look something like this, disregarding this FizMod folder, this VP999 and VP10 folders, and you won't have some of these other folders like VPinmame. I'm trying to think of what else you might not have, but your table structure, your folder structure should look something similar to this, right? You should probably have a doc folder, a music folder, a scripts folder, a table, a user folder, um, probably some of these files. This DLL definitely, this DLL, and this, I don't know why my icon got messed up, but you'll have a vpin exe file in there too, the icon will look more like this over here on the left. So now that that's installed, right, you're going to need the rest of these files that I have here. So I'm just going to move these out, right, because you should now have the base installation file installed. And you just run it through and install it, whatever. I use the default, right? I didn't change anything. I just let it go right into program files, and it created a Visual Pinball file folder and dumped its files there. So now what you need is to also go back to getting started, and you want to get these two files right here, VB scripts. Visual Pinball is Visual Basic. I know that might sound confusing to some people, but the program is called Visual Pinball, but the programming language behind it is VB, or Visual Basic. So you need these script files, and you're going to need these sound samples. The sound samples, I'm assuming, I didn't go through all these files, but I'm assuming that they're like your flipper noises, your kick out noises, just random commonly used, pinball sounds. It's not going to have your jackpot sound from Medieval Madness, but a plunger sound, a flipper sound, a drain sound, etc. I'm assuming that these are the sounds that are in here. VP fonts, it says highly recommended. If you want to install that stuff, I don't know exactly what it does. I didn't install it. I didn't see a need to, because I'm using an actual DMD. I'm not using a software DMD, so I don't actually use that stuff. I don't know what it really does, but I don't really care about fonts really anyway, to be honest with you, when it comes to playing pinball. Most of the time I'm looking at the ramps, the ball, and my DMD and my backlash or whatever. You need these NVRAMs, and that's the 4 files, right? Oh, sorry. Major file that I almost overlooked is this Visual Pinmame 2.5. Or if you're running a cabinet, the cabinet version, right? If you're running desktop, you want this one. If you're not running desktop and you're running an actual cabinet, then you want this one. What is the difference in them? I'm not really 100% certain. I'm gonna assume that it has something to do with, maybe the way it displays or something like that. Um, I haven't really looked into them that much. Like I said, I just got it up and running. I didn't really analyze it. Like, kind of just jumped in, wanted to play, and that was the end of that. So let's extract all these folders here, and let's look at what's inside of them. I should have probably extracted these before, but I'm kind of doing this late at night after working all day, kind of fried. Just want to try and help out the community and get my channel rolling. So this video is a little rough, but so now we got the 4 folders here, and this is your NVRAM files. What most of these files are is they are a non-volatile file, meaning that, and they're based off of the ROM, right? What a ROM is the read-only memory data of the pinball machine's program logic, right? So when you play Medieval Madness or something and you shoot a ramp, the peasant ramp 3 times or whatever, the machine has program inside of it and its ROM that says, "Oh, you shot it once. I display this on the DMD. I make this sound. These lights start flashing." That's what the ROM is doing, and it's also doing your scoring and stuff like that, right? So what this file actually does is it generates an NV file off of the ROM's name, and it saves your high scores and your ROM configuration changes that you've done. Like if you wanted the machine to play with 2 balls rather than 3, or you didn't want it to allow you to do an extra buy-in after the game was over, or whatever setting changes you do in a ROM. You put it on free play, for example. All that stuff is stored in here. So if you ever do a ROM change or something and you really mess up the ROM, you could always just delete the corresponding NV file for the ROM, and that'll pretty much just get rid of all your configurations that you did for that ROM. And the next time you start up the table, it'll load it. It'll create a new file, right, for your NVRAM for that ROM. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but so what they're doing here, and this is not the end of the world, right? But what they're doing here is they have like a bunch of tables, and they've already created you an NVRAM file, right? It's kind of like saving you the trouble of it creating one, because sometimes when you load a table, if you don't have an NV file, it'll say something on the DMD like factory installed or whatever, and then you have to like kind of like shut the table down and go back into it because it didn't have that NVRAM file. So it created it. The machine in a physical realm looked at it like you just installed the software into it, and then it needed a reboot. Okay, so this makes it that if I downloaded Big Hurt, and as long as my ROM file is named Big Hurt, it'll just load this. Whatever is in this, it'll just load this. But like I said, this file isn't critical. If you don't get this right, I don't think it's really that critical, right? Let me just scan through it, because like I said, most of these things are. But what you want to do with this file is you want to, well, we don't want to do anything with this file just yet, because I realized that you need to put pinmame in. And I'm sorry I'm jumping around like this. I probably should have organized this a little bit better. But here's your pinmame cabinet folder. And if you notice, I created a folder. Inside of my Visual Pinball named pinmame, like that. And inside of it, I just took all of this stuff and I did a Control A and I dumped it in here. All right. I didn't have to change anything. I didn't have to say anything. What you do have to do is run the setup exe and just do an install. Run through the prompts. Also set your path for your ROM files. So yours should look something like this, where your configuration goes to vpinmame config folder, which is in the same folder that you're in right now. Your ROMs are in the same folder that you're in right now. Your NVRAM is in the same folder. I think, and samples and all this stuff and snap is all in here. I think all this stuff auto-populates when you do install. There is one, thought there was one about looking for your table objects, but doesn't appear that there is. So now that you've dumped pinmame in there, and I'll explain exactly what pinmame is right now. Visual Pinball is like a schematic or CAD drawing type program, and what it does is it allows you to draw out and insert images of the table, and then that is the physical element of the virtual pinball machine. The logic and where the ROM of the table gets loaded is in pinmame. So you have a physical element and then you have a software element that combined makes a virtual pinball table. So if your pinmame isn't working correctly, your table may load and then it does nothing. It just sits there. Like none of the lights will flash. Your DMD won't show anything. You'll hear no sound going on. You can't start a game. No ball gets ejected into the shooter lane. That is a 100% sign that you have either a ROM problem or you have a pinmame problem. So hopefully that makes sense now. I'm sorry that I had to jump. So going back to this NVRAM folder here, if you go into pinmame and go into NVRAM here, you're going to see that I have these files as well. Most of them, I think. Or did I not download these? I may have even deleted these, to be honest with you. Because like I said, they're not 100% needed. I just want to make sure I'm giving you guys the right information really quick before I get some like hate message about being wrong. Yeah. Well, my memory serves me correctly, and I actually deleted all of them. So this is what I'm saying by this is nothing more than trying to save you some time, maybe some frustration. But I deleted them just because I didn't want to have potential configurations that might have been in there, or other people's high scores that were in there, or potentially I've seen sometimes where if you have an NVRAM file that the ROM is just not, or pinmame is like lining up this NVRAM file with a ROM and it's just not syncing up for some reason or not, then it gives me all kinds of headaches. So sometimes I've deleted them, but I think I just deleted all of them, to be honest with you, if they were even in there, because like this installation came with the system that I bought, but I have done these installations before myself. So my samples is just the entire, for some reason, I don't know why. For some reason, I don't know why mine is in a zip like that. I guess you can leave it zipped. So I'm sorry, I apologize. You can leave this stuff zipped and just dump it in there, it seems, because I have not had any problems with any kinds of sounds not working with my installation. Um, Now these VBS scripts, these, however, are extremely important because, and these go into your tables. If you go back one directory and you go to Visual Pinball, these go into your tables. I know there's a lot of crap in here for you to read. I mean, I have like about almost 200 tables running. But you're going to see them right there. 6803, Ali, Alving, Atari, Atari 1, 2, etc., etc. These are the scripts for Visual Basic. If you do not have these or update these, you're most likely probably going to have some weird stuff going on when you're trying to load stuff. Um, I'm also very sometimes you'll download tables, and an old school mentality was to include the VBS scripts. I do not update my VBS scripts unless there's an absolute reason to do such. Like, for example, maybe I might have had to update some of my VBS scripts for my SAM table hacks. I don't remember. We'll go through that later on, but that's something like this Stern VBS might have been one of those files. I kind of recall updating one of these VBSs for the crack. Um, but if I download a table and it has VBS files in it, I just ignore it. I just install the table, um, and maybe the backlash or whatever, and I ignore the VBSs that are with it because I'm not going to overwrite my VBSs that I know are current with something that might have been done 5 years ago. Yeah. Um, Visual Pinball, pinmame, all that stuff is open source. They are actively working on things. So I'm not going to potentially jeopardize my installation by just randomly updating files like that. Um, so that should get you to a point where you're able to load a table. So what we're going to do is we're going to load, I'm going to pick a random table and we're going to kind of go through how do you get a table to actually load in Visual Pinball. So in my case, I have a cabinet, so I'm going to download from the all section of cabinet tables. If you're doing a desktop, you're going to want to go to all VP9 desktop tables. If you really want a VP8, I mean, the only reason why I could see using VP8, to be honest with everyone here, is that sometimes there's tables that were created in VP8 but never ported over to VP9, or sometimes maybe the VP8 version played better than the VP9 version that someone did. It's really there for like a nostalgia type thing. I don't know if it's going to stay around much longer, considering that VP10. I've been testing some of the tables that have come out, and the physics are like getting better and better by the minute. I mean, I played something the other day and I was just kind of blown away at how much of an improvement they've done over VP9. So, getting back to this stuff, and we'll kind of talk about these the B2S cabinets for people that are playing on actual cabinet tables. What this is an animated backglass. So if you remember things like Elvira, Scared Stiff pinball machine that has the spinning spider, you're gonna want the B2S systems to be working, and that's something that's specific for cabinets. So I would make that a different tutorial. Span cabinet tables, I've never used these. I started looking into what exactly they were, and I stumbled upon a thread stating that they were obsolete and they should no longer be used. I guess there's some people playing them or whatever, but nobody's been making span tables. And I've never even attempted to try and load one. Hyperpin media packs, that's a front end, right? And we're not going to get into that because that's a whole video within itself. But what a front end is, just so that if you don't know what it is, it gives you a select. I'm going to load my front end so you can see it really quickly. It gives you a user interface so that when I turn on my machine, it literally just boots into this. And anybody could come over to my pinball machine and they could just turn it on and they'll get presented with this screen and they could just go through and select the table that they want. And then when they're done playing that table, they hit an exit button underneath the machine and it brings them back to this table, etc., right? So this little circular thing in the middle that has the names popping up, and then the backglass has an image which you can't see because that's on another monitor that I'm not capturing on right now, and then the desktop image of the table. Those are the three media types that I'm using. But you could also do audio, you could also do videos to make them, like for example, I started importing videos and I'll try and find one very quickly. I think I did Funhouse. No, I didn't do Funhouse yet. There was, I just saw one. So that one is actually a video for the table. All right, so it actually, you could record whatever it is you want, and then it'll play it. I usually just like it when it's running the attract, so that when you're going through it, you could just see the attract. I don't like the videos where you actually see someone playing, and a ball is shooting all over the place. That's kind of weird for me. So just so that you know what exactly a front end is, or a hyperpin, or a media pack is. Okay, ROMs are just exactly what they are. They're ROMs, right? We talked about that stuff. So I'm going to go into all, and I'm just going to randomly, I'm going to stay in full screen cabinet. I'm not going to go into the B2S cabinets because they're going to just confuse you if you're watching this video and you've never done this stuff. So I'm trying to pick something that I might want. So just to give some people an understanding, if it says FS in a name, that's majority of the time a naming convention. They don't always use it, like this guy didn't put it here, but FS usually means full screen, which means it's a cabinet style table. DT usually means desktop table. So if you load this, your screen is going to come up sideways. If you're on like a laptop or a desktop or something like that, if you're playing on an actual, like the way my screen is right now, it'll come out sideways. You'll see it in a minute. Well, you actually saw it in the front end. So you're going to download this. And of course, this is once again the versions. I always take the most current version, because I'm never going to want to play, unless the table used to work fine and now it doesn't. I'm never going to want the old version, right? Because it usually has a bug somewhere or something. And I'm actually just going to move these and delete them for now. Okay, so when you open this up, you may get extra files in here or whatever, but with the tables, your VPT file is your table, and that's the one that you want to be most concerned with. If there's VBS files in there or anything else like that, you don't really have to worry about that stuff. So I'm going to go back to my Visual Pinball folder here. I'm just going to minimize this for a second. And in this tables folder, I'm just going to rename this to Apollo. I like my names to be short. I don't like giant names, right? I'm going to just, all you got to do is just drag this in there and drop it, right? So here it is, and here's a whole bunch of other VPT tables that I have, right? Now I have a shortcut to my exe for VP991, and I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to open that Apollo table. So, like I was telling you before, VP tables or Visual Pinball is nothing more than like a somewhat of a CAD drawing or a schematic or something like that. All this stuff, you want to be careful. Don't click on this stuff because you can click on something and accidentally move it if the object or whatever you're clicking is not locked. Okay, and I'm going to have a long video that's going to go through how to adjust a lot of stuff in these tables to make them play correctly. But for now, I just want you to get familiar with what exactly the program is doing. Sorry, I had to take a drink. So here, this is actually nothing more than an editor at the same time as also your game engine. And right now I have options selected. So this is the select. To select something, it's always pretty much checked. This little drop arrow next to it is a giant listing of everything that's in the table to be displayed. Like for example, this is an LED someplace, and this is most likely a wall or an LED, and this is probably a light because it's a GI, etc., etc. Right? This options button here brings up an options menu on the side. Okay, and whatever you have clicked by default, you have the table selected by default. But if I were to click like a flipper or something, this would change to flipper, and then all the option fields that I can play around with would change as well. So the nice thing about Visual Pinball is that it's completely open. It's unlocked. It's not like Pinball Arcade where you get a table, and if you don't like the way it plays, go take a walk, right? There's nothing you can do about it. This one, you can alter this stuff to your heart's content. It's completely open, right? Backdrop has to do with the way you see the table, like the angle that you look at it from, certain like internal environmental type things, like how what's the distance measuring inside of the table, how does it handle friction and the ball rolling around and stuff inside of it, and then this play button is to actually load the table. This script button is the programming logic of Visual Pinball in order to enact with the ROM, right? So in a real pinball machine, you have the ROM, and it goes through some other boards and stuff like that. But there's always this wiring that's sending an electrical signal to some kind of thing, like let's say a solenoid, right? Or let's use a vertical up kicker, right? When a ball goes into the up kicker, it triggers off something on a ROM, and it knows that the ball is there. It does something with the ROM, maybe it gives you scoring, or it starts a feature, whatever it's going to do, and then it knows to kick it out, right? So it sends another signal, and there's a solenoid in that up kicker that'll trigger off so that it kicks the ball out. However, since this is all digital, there isn't a solenoid to interact with it, right? So what these guys do is they'll program a bunch of logic in here to enact with the ROM is the best way I can explain it, right? So sometimes you'll see, and if you're familiar with any scripting languages like Bash or I think this is VB that this is written in as well, um, or Perl or kind of like Python, and you understand loops and arrays and stuff like that, this stuff will just become like second nature. You're just like, oh, he's calling a function. That function goes through a check, it does a loop, it goes through an array, whatever, right? If you're not a programmer, you're gonna kind of want to read what's in the comments here and try and understand what they're trying to say. Some of this stuff though does not have comments. Like if you wanted to change, for example, maybe you didn't like the way a flasher was, or you found that a flasher was not flashing off the right thing in the ROM, then you would figure out which switch number in the ROM it is and change it here and change the flasher name or whatever it is that you're doing. Or, for example, the other day I downloaded a Twilight Zone that someone put a mod in their script to have these colored balls. Purple, yellow, green. Every time it kicked another ball into the trough, it was out of the trough. I'm sorry. It was like a blue ball. Then the next time it was a green ball and a red ball. I didn't really like it. I just wanted the chrome balls and the Powerball. So in the script, I was able to read the script because I script myself, and I was like, okay, so he has two options here. I just gotta comment this stuff out and activate the other stuff. But I was able to figure out where in the script he was getting this stuff to produce these colored balls because I understood scripting. Most of the time, good guys will or maybe possibly girls, who knows, um, will put these comments like this that'll tell you, hey, for this line, right? So the same line that's here, if you want to disable or enable the flashers, 0 to disable or 1 to enable the flashers, 2 to enable just the small stars and then the ramp. So if I change this to a 0, it'll disable it. If I change it to a 1, it'll enable the flashers. If I put it as 2, it'll just do under the stars, under the ramp, whatever the hell it's talking about. Um, Here's another thing for DMD rotation and backlash is how the backlash is going to load, if it loads one or not. Um, and this is kind of done out of the kindness of their hearts type thing. They don't really have to do this stuff, but they're just letting you know, hey, this is how you could turn things on and off or put special features into it. I will probably make a video just on scripting, just to get people more familiar with it. For now, the only reason why I have you in here is because I want to teach you the easy way of developing a ROM, right? To figure out which ROM you're supposed to download. Because when I first started doing Visual Pinball, I started downloading like every single ROM that I can find. Every single ROM that I can find related to that table and loading every single one until I could figure out what I should be loading. And what that does is it generates like a massive confusion as you have like 15 Addams Family ROMs and you have no idea which one did work or why one worked over another or why everybody else is saying that everything works fine and then you're playing and something doesn't work right because it wasn't programmed to that ROM, right? The Visual Pinball script that the table author wrote was not written for the ROM that you're using. Even though it loaded, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work the right way every single time. So if you do hold control down and hit F, you'll get a find box. And if you do game name, you'll see usually something like this that highlighted, right? And it says Apollo 13 in quotes. If you take whatever name is here, and you could just copy this, or you can memorize what the name was or whatever, and you go back to VP forums, And you go up into, make sure this says downloads here, and just dump this in and hit enter. That'll bring you right to the ROM. That is the ROM that this person wrote the script for. So now we're going to download this ROM. Download. I'm trying to kind of end this video right about now because it's getting quite lengthy. So I have the ROM file right here, but I'm not going to put it into play because I want you to see the difference of what I was talking about with Visual Pinball and pinmame and how they work together, right? So I'm going to load this table. It's going to complain that there's no ROM or ROM path. What that really means is that I'm having a problem with the ROM, and this is the VB script, which is right here. So it's saying, hey, I'm looking for your tables, and I can't find it. I can't find inside this table where this ROM file is, right? So as you can see, it loaded the table. What is it doing? Absolutely nothing. There's no lights working. Flippers will respond, right? However, I did not start a game, so the flipper shouldn't respond. But this is clearly letting you know that the ROM is not working. If I hit start or I hit a coin button, I mean, I don't know if you can hear that. I'm putting coins in. I can't start the game. There's no ball coming out. Nothing is happening. It's dead, right? So now I'm going to exit out, and you just do escape, and then you go to quit editor, right? So now what I want to do is I want to take this ROM file that I got, and you want to go into your pinmame folder, and you want to go to ROMs. And you don't want to extract this thing. You don't want to alter the name of this thing. You don't want to do anything. Just download it, dump it right into ROMs, zipped and everything. You don't have to do anything else. Now, when I load this, now, I don't know if you look at your top corner or side corner over there, you'll see my digital ROM there that I haven't shut off. But physically, if you were standing here, you'll see on my cabinet I have a real ROM. So I'm just going to leave that up so you can see it. But as you can see now, the lights are flashing. If I push the flipper buttons now, they don't do nothing. Why? Because it's a real pinball machine now, right? It needs money, okay? It needs money to be inserted into the machine to start it, okay? It's not on free play yet. We can put it on free play, but we're not going to yet. But because I'm going to go into another video on how to adjust ROMs. But for now, we're just going to hit our coin button, right? So as you can see, it's saying add coin. So I put in, it was a 50 cents game. That's what it was set to by factory default. And now it's got 1 credit. If I hit my start button, there it goes. Right, if I hit my launch button, now I'm kind of like standing on the side of my pinball machine, so I can't hit the other button at the same time. But it's playing. Right, so just to let you know that it is working. And that's it. That right there got a table loaded, right? That's pretty much the foundation of what you're going to do for every single table that you want to download. I have 180 something tables right now, and I've done this 100 and something times, right? And it works every single time. I've yet to have a table that doesn't load. The only time I've ever had a table not load is the Stern Sam tables, which is a kind of a complicated setup. But for anything off of VP forums that does not do SAM tables, this is how you do it, and it'll probably work for you 90% of the time, or whatever. As long as your setup is working correctly. If and I apologize for this, but if I had missed a step in the initially getting the Visual Pinball installed correctly, I apologize. But yeah, it's been a long time since I've installed it from scratch like that, and I just didn't want to risk blowing up 180 something tables. It was a lot of work getting the stuff to where it's at right now. Um, in another video, I will show you how to have these multiple versions of Visual Pinball running. That'll be my next video, just so that you can have multiple tables. All right. Um, because like I said, in mine, if you notice, I have a VP991. So what I ended up doing was putting a whole nother directory almost together for just 991. And this directory is 921. And this directory is Visual Pinball 10. Right? And this directory is Fizmod. And I'm keeping them separate like that so that because some of the files get shared. For example, these DLLs, right? You're going to find them pretty much in every single version that they've released, and also they're different from each other in some way or another, or maybe they're not. But I didn't want to take a chance, so I made completely different installations. But since they all reside inside of this Visual Pinball folder, um, they all point to this table. I know it's kind of weird. I don't remember exactly how I set that up to do that, but it is possible. Okay, I'm 100% certain it's possible because I know I have games that don't work correctly in 991 and I have them loading in 921. So that's it. A really long first video, really rough video. I understand, and it was a hard topic to kind of get through without having done it, fresh. I probably wouldn't be able to get through it as any smoother without doing it fresh. But um, keep watching. The videos will get better as I get more current with this stuff, and I work through all this really old stuff that I don't fully remember how it works. And I try and kind of like at least guide you in the right direction because I know when I started doing this, it was very hard to find any information. Other than that giant file that I had seen there, and even then I was still struggling with it. So if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. I will advise though that the community for Visual Pinball stuff tends to be really good. If you post in either VP Universe threads or in VP Universe VP forum threads, they will answer your questions and work very hard to get your stuff set up because community with this stuff is everything. So good night, guys. Sorry for the rough start, but it'll get better, I promise.